Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. It didn't take long for me to record another one, and for a good reason. Little disclaimer, I'm actually recording my voice after I play the game, so I already know how this went and I promise you it's gonna be interesting. I'm still playing with Commonwealth with just some slight variation on the version I played last time on the channel. I think the only difference being that I now run Wolverines in the support tab instead of the Challenger Marksman, and I have one card of Centurion Aviary to kind of fit the same role as fire support instead of forest. But that's it, basically everything else on the deck is the same. I'm playing against Tortique, which is of course, I don't need to tell you, one of the best players right now in the game. I know him from playing a lot of Blue 4 Motorized, and he actually does pull off quite a lot out of that deck, so I knew this game was gonna be interesting, so I decided to record, although it was kinda late, so I didn't record my voice in the meantime while I was playing, so... but here we are, I'm playing, and I'm sorry, I'm recording voice now, and I'll try to give you a decent commentary on the game, and maybe I'll be even a little bit more fluent, because I have not to play and speak at the same time. So I decided to go for something a little bit weird. It's not something you really don't see ever, but it's quite rare to see this kind of opener on this map from this side. It's something that I tried to do against Greyhound in a tournament game that I lost, if I remember correctly. No, yeah, I did lost that. And again, I'm still starting with my trusty two M108s as fire support / smoke screen deployers. So the idea here is to push from the beginning in the forest between Delta and Charlie, which is very ambitious. It's something, as I said, usually doesn't work all that well. But again, I was playing against a stronger opponent. I'm playing against an opponent that I know kind of likes to rely on motorized decks. So I was kind of expecting I was kind of expecting him pushing on Foxer in the opener. So I decided to go for this, just for some fun or something funny to upload on YouTube. So you can see that actually, yeah, it does start with a couple of helicopters. I had no recon helicopters in the opener, which is a mistake. Even though, Commonwealth doesn't have the best recon helicopters in the game, so... I mean, the Gazelle is decent, I guess, because it has good mobility and exceptional optics, but still... it's not like a Tiger or a K-52, It doesn't provide anything more than that, so... I was lazy, I didn't start with it, and I spotted his helicopters a bit late, which maybe messed up my opener a little bit, but still was manageable. You can see here I'm trying to tear down his wombats, as many of them as I can, and now I see an A-10 coming. Now the A-10 is of course one of the slowest planes in the game, so I have time to pull back my A into cover and get into the smoke with the Challenger 2s. And you'll see here the SAS on the left side actually helping out quite a lot, because I feel like one of their stingers actually side-shot the A-10, allowing me to finish it off with a rapier, which was huge. So far so good, the game is looking pretty decent for me, but then I have this problem. You see the bunch of wombats pushing on the back rank of my lines, which is scary, At the same time, I cannot pull my Challenger too far back, because I have the problem of rockhides and whatnot in the right forest above Foxtrot, so I'm pretty sure if I try to show a side or rear of the tanks, I'm surely gonna get side shot or rear shot, so I have to be careful there. And my last way of defending it was actually to use the Stormer with his 80 capability to try and defend against those wombats. And you actually see that coming to work pretty soon here, I believe, yeah. Yeah, here. I mean, an automatic could have done the same and probably even better, but still, props for the Stormer defending himself. Sadly though, I lose my Stormer and my Trek Rapier to the rockets I was talking about earlier, so I now have a problem. I have to secure this right flank, the tiny forest above Foxer, before being able to actually send something into this other forest on the left, so... those Challenger 2s are now out there alone, without any AA net, without recon, it's not great. And I'm basically surrounded on the right side by those rockhides, which I cannot spot at the moment, so... my best bet was to just keep smoking them and hope for the best. Yeah, I'm making some decent progress in the forest. The one I intended to go for in the opener, which is great, but I know that I cannot. I won't be able to hold it for long as long as I don't secure the forest, the other forest on the right, the one on top of Foxtrot, basically. But yeah, everything else looks decent enough. I'm just buying a couple of reservists here and there just to make sure that our rockheads or something like that doesn't sneak through. I already have a couple of reservists on the left side as well, just as a early warning, basically. Should a rush of wheeled vehicles come through, those territorials should be able to slow them down. Plus, I think territorials are actually a pretty good reservists because of their AT capability, you know. Lots of reservists out there don't have the best AT weapons, so you can basically just drive through them and not even pay the price. With territorials though, as well as like the German or Israeli reservists with the Blindy side, or even the Netherlands reservists, they do have some decent AT weapon. Actually, some good AT weapons considering the price they come at. So they can serve the purpose of just, you know, being a blockade for a street or two if you need to have something down the road and slow a push down. So in that kind of role they're good. So speaking of reservists, I'm now calling a bunch of them to try and have eyes basically for the Challenger 2s, and spot those commandos, marines inside of that. And the idea is to use the Challenger 2s to basically help me out there and clean that forest before I can actually send something on the left to the main forest, let's say, the one between Delta and Charlie. This phase of the game, I remember, was very, very suffered from me because I felt like it was one mistake away from losing the game, you know. It was sufficient for him to call like a Kurnas in a moment where my A was not on point, or while I was distracted, or one of my challenges was damaged, you know, would have basically ended the game. I was heavily relying on tanks the whole game actually, and I'd say this is one of the very few circumstances where I actually was super satisfied of my tank play. You know, where basically tanks played out as they were intended to, and not just get side shot by an ATGM or a plane or a recon vehicle, you know. Of course, the map did help me out quite a lot because, you know, this is a map that tends to favor open space. Again, though, probably on hindsight, it was a good call to push for the right side instead of the traditional left opener because, you know, on the left you have a lot more forest to work with if you're playing with a motorized deck, so I feel like I would have been just side shot all day long. Here on the right side, the map is more open, which means tank should be a bit of an easier time, but it also means planes might have a bit of an easier time, so I have to be careful about his planes. Again, I'm trying to advance with my AA. My biggest concern right now was to not lose the Challenger 2s, so I had to have the AA net always somewhat on point, as well as some smoke. And again, since I'm playing against a motorized deck, I'll admit I took a look at the deck Tortique is playing with a bunch of times, so I kind of know what he's playing with. Like most motorized decks, and especially blue 4 motorized decks, you don't get access to a lot of units, you know, right? Like, I mean, you don't have any availability bonus, you don't have activation point bonuses, so you kinda have to bring out whatever you can from your units, right? So, sure, Commando Marines on Elite are great and whatnot, but you don't have that many of those, so what I'm trying to say is whatever I can kill is a blessing right now, so I'm trying to be very conservative, play it slow, and try to go for the long run. which again is usually the idea against any motorized deck, but especially if you like against blue 4 motorized decks. Again, you can see me call the Regis again, a unit that I tend to appreciate a lot more than I used to in the past. They're great. I mean, on these kind of maps where, especially if you're playing against a motorized deck, having the Regis might actually give you an edge when it comes to optics and spotting units. That is very valuable against a deck like this that relies heavily on stealth and optics, you know. I was a bit eager here and pushed with the SPS a bit too early, so I didn't actually manage to make them leave a bit longer, and that was actually a pretty significant loss. But it's not the end of the world. Challenger 2 come here helpful again. I finally managed to clean the thin forest on the right where the commandos are in at now. And now it's time to focus on the main objective of this wall opener, which is the forest between Charlie and Delta. Centurion Aviary is another of those units I tend to be very skeptical about. But I guess after the South Africa patch, they actually got more than usable. Actually, if I remember correctly, they did quite a lot of work in this game. So, and I was pretty happy with them at the end of the game. So they're not bad actually. It's something that not all nations get access to. You know, it's a pretty unique kind of unit. And it was definitely nice to have in this situation. Yeah, finally making some progress into the forest here. I now have a bunch of challengers here, 2 challengers 2s and 2 challengers 1 Mark 2s, which is the 115 points variant, which I do like quite a lot actually. So basically, I'm now relying a lot on armor, basically. I just want to have the armor advantage, and from now up to basically the end of the game, I'm gonna rely on that. It's a nice snipe. You can see me killing a Leopard Volcaning with the Challenger 2s, which is great. But again, I didn't feel too comfortable going for the left, to the left with all of my tanks, because I feel like you might have had some ATGMs on the left side, and at the same time, you know, when you're playing against a deck like this one, you have to make sure that if you're on the left, nothing sneaks through the right. You have to have something everywhere, basically, because if all my tanks go in one direction, then rockets are gonna pour through the right side, you know. Again, here you can see one of the reasons why I believe Challenger 2 are so beloved, is that they can actually survive a Milan 2 side shot. Another super heavy there would have died, and that would have probably spelled the end of the game for me, so good thing that the Challenger 2 are massively armored, so they managed to survive a Milan 2 side shot here. Again, you can see here the Centurion Aviary doing a great job actually at pushing that forest. Generally now I was feeling, I remember, a little bit less concerned with time. I was feeling a bit more comfortable having the forest on the right side. But it was still feeling a lot like, you know, anything could go wrong from a moment to the other, because it was sufficient to me to lose one of my tanks, one of my super heavies to a plane or something, and it would have been very bad. Yeah, he makes a pretty good use of his mortars, because I believe he killed my Regis here on the left that I had with the mortars. Of course, Regis are great, but again, the price you pay for that is that they obviously are not very survivable once they get spotted, so there's that, of course. Again, you can see that as soon as I retreat my tanks to repair them and such, he immediately tries to probe with his autocannon vehicles to try and snipe an AA piece or logistics or whatnot, you know. Which is the way to go with motorized decks, of course. That's why I try to never overextend too much with my tanks, because I feel like the moment I do so, basically any unit, any wheeled unit of his can just sneak through and kill soft targets with no problems. So I had to keep everything close together here. Again, you see me call me like a mixture of commandos and reservists. I feel like I didn't need much infantry to grind with. I mostly needed something to meet shield basically for my chargers and my Centurion aviary. I was trying to go a bit more quantity over quality basically at this point. I was also trying to be a bit more conservative with my infantry, which is something I tend to not do very often, and it's one of the things I should improve on my playstyle, because I tend to be a bit too aggressive when I have damaging infantries and keep pushing even though I shouldn't. Now, I have no clue where this rockite came from. If I remember correctly, I took a look at the replay. I think maybe it snuck through in the opener of the game while I had nothing on the right side. And I probably kept it there a while without doing much, and decided to move just when I placed the CV, which was a very good call. Thankfully, I added the points for calling an area, and even though it was a bit of a panic buy, I believe it came up useful later on in the game, so it wasn't that bad altogether, having the area at my disposal now. You've seen me here splitting the tanks again. It's a bit debatable, this thing, because I don't like... I feel like I prefer to have my tanks clumped together when I have to micro them. But of course, against laser guided bombs, I tend to split them because I don't like to have the special damage them both. So yeah, he probably gave the right click order, and you saw the corners turn around. Which is sad, but at the same time I don't feel like I should keep them together against the Kurnas, so... You see later you're probably gonna use the Kurnas again, and while my tanks were already splitted, I did not either merge or split them again, because it's not the reason I do that. The reason I do that is because I want to really avoid the damage from one to stun the other as well. In fact, if I remember correctly, from now on, basically I'm gonna play with them spread out a bit more, because I know he had another Cornus probably in the deck. Okay, you can see here the territories again with their solid AT weapons being able to slow down the push there. Or actually kinda stop it actually, because they're still quite far off from my base, so now I have all the time to deal with those backups on the left here. Azalav also being pretty useful there. And a couple of bombs from the Harrier actually managed to finish the backups off. I did turn off the weapon on the Harrier because I wanted to spare the last couple SGBs for the mortars there. And I actually managed to just save one, which is still good enough. If I remember correctly, I managed to kill one of the Rotality ones there, yeah. And that's pretty huge actually, because those mortars were being quite annoying from the get-go, so having one kill, the other one stun is a very good thing for me. And now I managed to finally capture that as well. So I'm making some good progress, but the time is starting to be a concern now, because I have to secure or neutralize another sector before I can start cheeking on my behalf, so Again, you can see here the 4HE on the Challenger line of tanks being super useful in these situations. Here I do something funny again. I see a bunch of rockets coming. I try to use the Stormer as an anti-tank vehicle. Also again, 4HE on tanks, you can see here. I see where the ATGM comes from. And that's it. That's great. Stormer actually killing one rocket, and I believe the other one as well. Yeah, killing even the other one. That's great. It was a fun unit to play with this game. You know, Stormer have that AT capability that nobody thinks about until it actually comes useful. Yeah, I lose a tank there. It's a Challenger 1, not a Challenger 2, but still not great. It's not that often that you see Challenger running out of ammo, so that tells me I made a pretty decent job at keeping them alive so far. Yeah, now I see another plane coming. This one is another A10 if I remember correctly. I can't see from the preview I'm recording with now, but yeah, it really is an A10. So I lose another tank here. You can see me hovering my cursor on the ASF here for a little while. I wasn't sure if I should have both a Tornado or a Eurofighter. But in the end I decided not to, because I feel like losing those tanks was not the end of the world. I was retreating my Challenger into cover, so... And I actually needed something to bomb the town on the left, because now I wanted to make some progress on the left side and try to secure Alpha. So you see him try to attack my helicopter and SBS on the left. But yeah, the Rapier and the Wolverine actually finished the job, and I was pretty happy with my choice not to buy an ASF. Again, not much progress in the vertical sense. Like, I'm still not fully into the forest between Charlie and Delta, but I'm making a lot of progress on the left, because now he has a lot of pressure to try and recapture that infamous forest, and I can concentrate myself on pushing on the left and cleaning the town between Alpha and Delta. And again, this is one of the rare occasions where you actually see armored combat being useful, or actually working out as intended, because, you know, I have the feeling that nowadays playing around tanks exclusively is a bit of a death sentence. Unless, of course, you're playing with a deck that has very good tanks, like maybe Entente or something. I mean, Commonwealth does have very good tanks as well, but it lacks in some other areas, so it's easy to mess up, basically. Again, once more, the 4H unit tanks be useful. I now call both the areas to try and kill the buffaloes in the town. One of them gets out, gets hit by the bombs, and finished off by other bombs and tanks, basically. So I know 2 out of 4 squads of buffaloes down there were dealt with. But I have to keep pushing, because, again, I see him putting reinforcements into the forest at north, so I have to clean this town soon, basically, because my tanks are gonna be needed soon elsewhere. So I call the F-111C again, trying this time to bomb behind the town, because I noticed it trying to pull back the infantry while the bombs are coming, which is something that comes very natural to most players, so... The ones were aimed a bit further behind the town, and yeah, they did work actually, so Buffalo is no more, basically. Now I know for sure, basically, that the town is empty, and that there are not many vehicles left on the left side, so I think I call a bunch of stuff just to fill the town and have the SBS capture whatever is left, but now I have to reroute my tanks on back north. And also I made a huge mistake here to keep the Aslav weapon turned on, so he gave his position away to the Milans and got sniped. I also lose line of sight, so I'm blind shooting the bombs on the area here just to try and stun something, which is better than nothing, but still not really suited for that kind of stuff, the area, so... So I'm bleeding again. And when you have like 16 minutes left against a motorized deck, it's not the best things to see, you know? You see him call another corners here. Again, I'm just worried about spreading the tanks out. So I'm confident the Challenger is gonna survive a corners pass because of the 4 armor top and huge side armor, so Challenger 2 survives, but I have to put him back to repair now. I also see there's a Milan or Chumat or something shooting from there and try to blindly shoot back at him, but with no success so far. I was hoping for the Challenger 2s to come help the Challenger 1 Mark II here, but they were slow and didn't make it in time to help with the suppression and the HE against that ATGM squad. You can see again the Stormer on the right side trying to... yeah, dealing with one more Rockhites. I think that Stormer actually may have killed 3 of them. But yeah, now I'm basically left with nothing there, so Harrier comes to the rescue and I managed to split the salvo, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 2 bombs going for one, 2 bombs going for the other, and that's it. That was pretty good for me because I had very little left there defending, so... not having to deal with them anymore means I can keep my Challengers a bit more to the left and help out with the other forests instead of having to be rerouted to the right. I called a Lynx 3, again, was probably a panic buy. But yeah, now it's there and it's gonna basically sit there, not doing much probably. Which is a waste of quite a lot of points because it's a pretty expensive unit. Now, if you remember, I had the SBS probing a little bit into Charlie earlier on the right, and it didn't spot anything, so I was assuming his CV to be into that road in Charlie. That's why I called the F-111C to bomb there. Like most players, we usually put the CV down there, so if I didn't spot it earlier elsewhere, it's very likely to be in there. That's the case. So I managed to snap the CV, and now I'm actually peeking for the first time, which is great. Also, I did spot the Gepard firing back at my 111C, so since my situation is starting to look a bit better for me, I'll decide to invest the points for a seed. With the idea of letting my Lynx 3 free and go into action, basically. I want to clear the Gepard so I can do something with the Lynx. Gepard goes down, and I decide to move attack with the Lynx into Charlie and maybe try to kill some Rockhites or whatnot, you know. Again, whatever I can kill is a good thing, because, as I said, he doesn't have access to that many activation points and availability bonuses, so I'm trying to get as much as I can, basically. Even though it might only be transports or infantry or just vehicles, you know, it's still good to kill them all. Sadly, he recaptures Charlie pretty fast, so I have to now to make progress on Alpha and try to get a +1 back again. I'm not super good at calculating how many minutes you need to win the game. I believe it's a tick every 4 seconds, so that means it's 30 ticks every 2 minutes. Would be 150 ticks in at +1 in 10 minutes, so if I do the math right. So yeah, I would need a +1 from now, exactly from now, to get a victory or at least a draw. So that would not probably be enough to win at this point, cleaning just Alpha. And I remember feeling definitely a sense of urgency now to clean Alpha as soon as I can and neutralize the CV, put one of mine inside and go at +2 actually. Or maybe try and do some progress into Charlie and put a CV there, you know, something like that, because I feel like I had a lot of control on the ground now. I had to make good control with command units, actually. In the meantime, my Challenger 2s were still low on everything, pretty much. Low on fuel, low on repairs, low on ammo. They did a lot of work this game. It's probably, if I think about it, maybe this is the game where I actually had my Super Heavies do the most, probably, or one of the games where my Super Heavies did the most. Which is nice because I really like to play around tanks in the games I have, so which again is something that the game doesn't usually incentivize so much, you know. I believe it's a bit easier to play around mechanized or motorized decks nowadays, but that one time where you actually manage to play decently with tanks, because of course even the map helps you out and stuff, you know, it still makes me happy, you know. Those commandos here, I used to bring them up vet in my Commonwealth deck back in the past because I didn't trust them enough being down vet. I feel like, you know, with their weird bonus they have on their primary weapons, it was almost mandatory to have them up vet, so to take full advantage of that. But actually, even on this deck where I have them down vet, they did a lot of work, and I was pretty happy with the ability they had to clean towns and forests on their own, so... Okay, so I managed to clean the CV in alpha, and now I'm putting the CV into alpha in order to go to a +2, which would be enough to win for me at 10 minutes from the end of the game. I now finally buy some Leopard A5, the Australian ones, just to help me out with fire support, and because with 8 frontal armor might not be much, but against Rockade 76 it's more than enough. They have a very good cannon for the price, of course. They lack the armor, but the cannon is great. And, you know, I already have the Challenger 2s repaired, so I can do with a little bit less armor on other units. I was trying to land the AH7 here, but I didn't make it in time, so the Celtic gets the kill. SAS revenges that. And I lost the... I lost eyes on my target for the 111C, so I lose it today in F15C. Which is good news though, because I feel like at this point most of the damage was done already by my planes, so he had to spend 170 points on a plane, on an ASF planes, that beside killing this F111 didn't do that much. So that gave me a hint that he might not have much on the ground either, so here you see me call another CV and try to be as aggressive as I could. Here split again, I was pretty confident this time that he didn't give the right click order yet. In fact, you can see him bombing other units actually. But I wanted to avoid the splash damage. And actually the Harrier managing to kill it with the Sidewinders was great. It was very fun to watch. This is one other reason why the Harrier got better after the South Africa patch. You know, not only being at veteran means they're gonna be more reliable with their LGBs, but they're also gonna be more reliable in their multi-role version, you know, when they have to actually shoot down planes or helicopters. Yeah, so at this point I'm basically making progress. I'm +2 and I realize it doesn't have much, so I'm pushing. I'm going full in basically right now. I feel like he lost already a bunch of planes. He shouldn't have much left to kill my tanks. I'm bringing the Wolverine up just in case, but I'm pretty confident it might be out of planes, and given that he doesn't have, again, much activation points, I believe the only ATA helicopters he has are the AH-1F Cobras that you saw earlier, but you know, improved tow against Challenger 2s is not gonna do much, so I'm going full in basically. Again, you can see the F15C Eagle. I do snipe the Col.Talbot. I now see also the CV. I gave the order to my arty to just bomb the CV position, but yeah, basically this was GG. And yeah, that's the game. And I have to say I was pretty proud of how it went and the fact that I managed to pull out that weird opener somehow. Again, playing against Tortique is not easy because of course he's a very, very, very talented player. But this time around I managed to make this deck work, and it's very satisfying when you actually can have a kill list like this one on both of the challengers and win against an infamous deck like Motorized, Blue for Motorized. So yeah, I was super happy about the game, and I think it was one of the most interesting games I had so far in a while. So yeah, you can see here the Stormer killing the Rockites. which was pretty funny. Yeah, that's it. So, hope you guys enjoyed, and see you the next time.